everyone. Today we're going to be continuing the reading of Maryellen Larkin's first book called The One and Only by Valerie Tripp. Chapter 9. Maryellen's Cold War. Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other's gold. It was Wednesday, 2 weeks later, and Maryellen's Girl Scout troop was meeting in the cafeteria after school for the first time. At their last meeting, back in June, at the end of third grade, the troop had held its flying up ceremony and the girls had flown up from brownies to Girl Scouts. So this was their first time wearing their green uniforms, green socks, and barrettes instead of brown dresses, brown socks, and beanies. Maryellen sighed. Angela was not a Girl Scout, so she was alone. She thought about how she and the two Karens had really looked forward to being Girl Scouts together, and how just before school began, they'd talked about earning badges, selling cookies, and going on overnight camping trips. Now, as they sang, "Make new friends," Maryellen couldn't even look the two Karens in the eye. The three of them sure had not kept the old friendship-wise. The Karens obviously didn't think that she was gold. When Mrs. Nichols, their troop leader, told the girls to choose groups of 4 to share tents on their first overnight campout, which was to take place in October, the two Karens rushed to invite Patty Zender and Carol Turner to share their tent with them. That meant that Maryellen would have to be in the leftovers tent with Mrs. Nichols and her daughter Debbie, who wasn't even in the troop because she was too young. Maryellen sighed again as she watched the Karens, Patty, and Carol giggling over the caper chart. They had all signed up for KP, which was kitchen patrol, and the most fun job on the caper chart because you were in charge of finding sticks for roasting hot dogs and for toasting marshmallows for s'mores. Later, during the meeting, Maryellen saw that the Karens had used matching material to make their sit-upons. "And I just know they'll sit upon their sit-upons far away from me," she thought. It had been this way for 2 weeks now, ever since the conversation about Angela. "It's as if the three of us are having our own little private Cold War," Maryellen said later to Carolyn on Wednesday night as they got ready for bed. "We don't fight. They just snub Angela and me, and they try to get the other kids to ignore us too. Of course, Davy already acts as if I don't exist." "It's like you're blacklisted," said Carolyn, stepping over Scooter, who was in the way as usual. "We learned about blacklisting in social studies. It means that you're excluded because people don't like something you did or something you believe." "Exactly," said Maryellen. "The Karens don't talk to Angela and me on the playground before school. They won't sit at a lunch table with Angela and me or walk home after school with us. It's like the Karens and I are on different sides of the Iron Curtain, as if we're enemies, when we used to be friends and allies." "But do you want to be friends with them after what they said about Angela?" asked Carolyn. "Oh, I don't know," said Maryellen. "They hurt my feelings, and I think they're completely wrong about Angela. I mean, Angela was just a kid. She didn't have anything to do with the war, which ended a long time ago, before Angela was born." "Lots of people are still mad about the war, though, Ellie," Carolyn pointed out. "Even Mom and Dad don't like us to buy things like purses or hair clips that are made in Japan." "But Angela is a person," said Maryellen, pulling on her pajamas. "You can't just lump her together with a gigantic group of people and then cross her off because she's part of that group. The Karens would like her if they got to know her the way I did. Still," she admitted, "I miss Karen and Karen, just like I miss Davy. And remember what Joanne said about how it's what you do after a mistake that matters? The Karens are making a mistake about Angela, but if they stopped their mistake, I'd be glad to be friends again." "The Karens have been your friends for a long time," Carolyn agreed. "But you're doing the right thing, sticking up for Angela, even though it's hard." I know that's probably cold comfort." "Well," sighed Maryellen, "maybe cold comfort is all you get in a cold war." "Fourth graders," said Mrs. Humphrey in her most listen because this is important voice, "today is the day for our geography bee." "Hooray!" the class cheered. "Count off by twos," said Mrs. Humphrey. "Then all of you on Team 1 stand by the windows, and all of you on Team 2 stand by the door. Wayne, there is no reason for you to be talking right now." In a jiffy, the class was divided into two teams. Maryellen was glad to see that Angela was on Team 2, too, as she was. She was not as pleased to see that both Karens were also on Team 2, as was Davy. Everyone was so fizzy with excitement that Mrs. Humphrey had to clap her hands. "I'd like your full attention, please," she said. When everyone had quieted down, Mrs. Humphrey went on, "Now, I will ask each one of you a geography question, and you must answer with the name of a country. If you answer incorrectly, you must take your seat. The team with the last person standing wins the geography bee, and all members of the winning team will receive prizes." "What are the prizes?" asked Wayne. "You'll see," said Mrs. Humphrey, sounding merrily mysterious. "Can we help each other?" asked Patty Zender. "Yes," said Mrs. Humphrey. "Even after you're sitting down, you can help a teammate. You may not tell your teammate the answer to any question, but you may act out a clue silently, as if you are playing the game charades." The class murmured and giggled. The bee sounded like so much fun. "All right, let's begin," said Mrs. Humphrey. "Ready?" "Yes!" cheered the class. Maryellen's heart rose when she saw that Mrs. Humphrey had made maps just like the ones that she had made for Angela. Mrs. Humphrey had drawn the outlines of different countries, but had not labeled them. Both Team 1 and 2 had no trouble naming the continents like Africa and Australia. They did well naming the big countries like India and China too. But when Mrs. Humphrey started to ask the names of the smaller countries that made up Europe and the quirky-shaped ones that made up South America, both ones and twos started dropping like flies. Pretty soon, there were 3 students left on Team 1, Joanne Martin, Carol Turner, and Jimmy Lansing. The only Team 2s left were Karen Stolman, Angela, and Maryellen. Then Maryellen said Argentina by mistake when she should have said Chile, so she had to sit down. Joanne Martin missed Chile too, but Angela got it. Jimmy Lansing missed on Bolivia, and so did Angela, but Carol got it. "All right, girls," said Mrs. Humphrey to Carol and Karen Stolman. "It is down to the 2 of you." She held up the outlines of a country. "Carol?" she asked. "Spain?" said Carol. "No, I'm sorry," said Mrs. Humphrey. She turned to Karen Stolman. "Karen, if you can name this country correctly, your team, Team 2, will win the geography bee. If you cannot name it correctly, then you and Carol will keep going until one of you can name a country that the other one cannot name." "France! It's France!" Maryellen wanted to shout out to Karen Stolman, who was biting her lip and looking as if she was not sure of the correct answer. "Oh, how can I help her?" Maryellen fretted. Then she had a brilliant idea. She waved Karen Stolman to get her attention. Karen looked at her with an expression that was wary but desperate. Maryellen stood up and made the shape of a full skirt around herself. She made Patty Zender stand up and pointed to the skirt of her dress. Then she pointed to the skirt of Karen's dress, too. Karen looked befuddled. Suddenly, Davy jumped up. He put his hands on his hips and swayed from side to side, singing silently. The class howled with delighted, hilarious laughter. Davy twirled, and then he sank down in a deep curtsy. Karen looked even more at a loss than before. Then Angela held her fists by her chin like paws and mimed barking like a dog. Skirts and singing and a dog, said Karen, frowning. Oh, she exclaimed, rising up on her toes. I get it. You mean our poodle skirts. Angela nodded vigorously. Davy pretended to collapse in relief. Maryellen put one hand in front of the other, making the signs for charades that meant the word that goes before. Oh, Karen exclaimed again. They are French poodles, so... She turned to Mrs. Humphrey. That country must be France. Yes, said Mrs. Humphrey. Team 2 wins the Geography B. Congratulations. Hooray! Shouted the students on Team 2, jumping out of their seats. Karen Stolman ran over and hugged Maryellen, who was already hugging Angela. The three of them bounced up and down with excitement, their arms all tangled up together. Maryellen turned to say thank you to Davy, but Wayne was raising one of Davy's hands in the air, as if he had won a prize fight. I had no idea what Ellie and Davy were doing, said Karen Stolman to Angela. I never would have gotten France if it weren't for your clue. Thank you so much. You mean grazie. That's how you say thank you in Italian, Maryellen told Karen. Karen hesitated, and then she grinned. Grazie, Angela, she said, and grazie, Ellie, too. For winning the Geography B, every member of Team 2 got a ball-shaped yo-yo that had a map of the world on it, just like a globe. Davy won everyone's admiration because he could make his yo-yo do a trick called Around the World. I'm doing Around the World at the same time that I'm making the world go around because my yo-yo is a globe, Davy announced as the class lined up to go to the cafeteria. Maryellen grinned at him, and she thought he sort of grinned back, but it was so quick she wasn't sure. Karen Stolman asked Maryellen and Angela, have you two been secretly studying geography? No, but during our lunch bunch lessons, we used maps for fun so that Angela could learn English and I could practice my handwriting, Maryellen explained. Well, you two seem to know the whole world, said Karen King. Except for Chile and Bolivia, Angela said softly, and everyone laughed. Then Karen Stolman asked Maryellen and Angela shyly, want to sit together at lunch? Okay, said Angela. Sure, said Maryellen. Her heart flooded with the forgiveness for the Karens. They hadn't come right out and said that they were sorry, but they were showing that they wanted to be friends again, and Angela's friend too. Angela, you've certainly learned a lot of English, said Karen King. Ellie taught me, said Angela. She made it fun. Maryellen grinned at Angela. Then she sighed and said, I just wish my handwriting had improved as much as Angela's English has. Mrs. Humphrey probably wishes that too. I mean, that was the whole reason she asked me to come to lunch bunch. When Maryellen and Angela arrived for lunch bunch time, neither Davy nor Mrs. Humphrey was there yet. The girls decided to work on sentences. If something happened in the past, you use was, said Maryellen. Like, the Geography bee was fun. But if the thing is happening now, you use is. Like, Angela is smart. Now you try. Okay, said Angela. How about Davy is your friend? Maryellen smiled sadly and gently corrected Angela. Davy was my friend, she said. Angela shook her head firmly. No, she said. He is. Well, Maryellen sighed, let's just say that I hope that maybe someday he will be my friend again. Will be is what you say when you're talking about the future and the things you hope for. When Mrs. Humphrey and Davy arrived, Mrs. Humphrey told Davy and Angela that they could go to recess, and then she called Maryellen to her desk. Maryellen, Mrs. Humphrey said without any care, Joe, no, or O's, as if she knew exactly who Maryellen was without any doubt now. You and Angela have had a good time helping each other, haven't you? Oh, yes, said Maryellen. We're good friends. Splendid, said Mrs. Humphrey. She hesitated, and then she went on. It was kind of you to be friends with Angela, and it was brave, too. I saw how your old friends disapproved. It's not easy to take a stand when you have to stand apart. Maryellen nodded, pleased that her teacher had noticed what was going on. I think we're all friends now, though. Good, said Mrs. Humphrey. She began leafing through the composition book with Maryellen's sketches and labels in it. I know that you have been trying for quite some time to change your handwriting, and I appreciate your effort. But I think that loopy style you invented for yourself actually looks better than your attempts at normal cursive. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're you, with your own individual way of doing things. So, I guess it makes sense that your handwriting is unique too. She handed the book back to Maryellen. Thanks, said Maryellen, hugging the book to her chest. That's me, she thought. I'm the one and only Maryellen Larkin, and there's no one else quite like me in the whole wide world. Oh, chapter 9 was such a good chapter. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. Let me know what you guys think of it in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel if you guys are new for lots more on Maryellen. Thanks for watching. See you soon.